Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well. It's Friday, and you know what that means. We've got another podcast for you guys coming up today, and this is a good one. Last week, I was at the VW Revival, and this podcast is about, I've got a couple guests on here. We're going to review the weekend real quick, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But before we get started, don't forget to support those that support Let's Talk Dubs podcast. Most importantly, go check out VW Trends Magazine, a magazine by the people, for the people. Go check them out today. Not the same old stuff. A lot of how-tos, a lot of features, covers more shows than anybody else, and it's not the same old stuff. So go subscribe today at vwtrendsmagazine.com. That's vwtrendsmagazine.com. The latest issue has coverage for one crazy weekend from last year. So if you guys want to know what you missed, take a look at the magazine and see what you missed out on. And you definitely don't want to miss out on that this year. So go to letstalkdubs.com, click on the Showtime tab, and get registered today for one crazy weekend. We've sold out the first block of rooms. We've opened up now the second block of rooms. It's going to be a banger, guys. The rooms will be available to reserve up until 30 days before the event. So you have until the beginning of September to get your rooms booked. After that, do not call me and be like, Bill, can I get a room? Wasn't sure I was going. It's a lot easier to book a room, get it reserved, and make sure you have it. Because even if you don't go, you can always sell it to somebody else, because there's always going to be people looking for rooms, because this is Las Vegas. I've worked out a special deal with the hotels. Just this last weekend, I went to a hotel in California, 3 nights, $450. Yeah, that's not one crazy weekend. The room's way cheaper over here, and you definitely get more bang for your buck. No charge for parking. It's better all the way around. Of course, this is Las Vegas, the city of hotels and casinos. So they definitely make it much more friendly for your expenses to stay out here, the necessary evil of paying for a place to sleep. So go to letstalkdubs.com, click on the link for Showtime, and get registered today for one crazy weekend, October 2nd through the 4th. Kicking off on Thursday with a meet and greet, a poker tournament, a good time hanging out, getting set up for the show. And then Friday, we're going to get together and do a bowling tournament that day. There'll be a bowling tournament happening for VW people with VW prizes. And then Friday night, the world famous strip cruise. Over 150 Volkswagens last year on Las Vegas Boulevard. Don't miss out. Make sure you go check that out. And then Saturday, we have the car show. This year, we've got big plans for the car show. After going to the latest car show I just went to, I just keep thinking about what we can do to make it really hospitable for those people that come out to the shows, the expenses and all that stuff. And this year, I'm announcing $1,500 cash prize for first place, for best of show. So we are going to have a best of show category. And if you feel your car is a contender for best of show, you're ready to debut a car, bring it out. We'll get you set up. There's going to be a specific the GP is going to get top 20 awards, the top 20 coolest cars out there. There's going to be a special segment for cars that are going to be judged by a team of judges that are car builders. They will judge these vehicles on a point scale, and winners will get cash prizes. So we'll have a couple categories. We're honing those right now, but there's going to be a best of show, best paint, best interior, and there's going to also be maybe a couple other awards, but we want to make sure that we get you guys paid, because it costs money to go to these shows. We want to make sure you get a little bit of payback, get a little bit of money in your pocket, and go put it all on black. Double it up. That's Vegas. So go check it out today. I'm super excited. If you guys haven't seen the promos for it, go to my Instagram at Let's Talk Dubs and check out what you have missed by not going on one crazy weekend. Be putting some more videos out now. We're working on, we've got some sponsors going. We're going to be debuting some 80s cars out there. So there's 4 or 5 80s cars being built right now. The number keeps changing, because I have people reaching out to me telling me that they're bringing an 80s car, something they drug out from the past. It's being revived. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be cool at this event. Not to mention the new spot at the top of the parking garage, the Orleans Hotel and Casino we're going. There's room for 400 cars up there. So you guys make sure you get registered today for one crazy weekend. Now, don't forget, you want high quality aftermarket parts built for enthusiasts by enthusiasts. That's right. Go check them out today. Ross Wolf, high quality aftermarket parts. Go get some today. Don't forget to use the coupon code when you log in. It's going to ask you for a discount code. Put LTD10 for 10% off at Ross Wolf. Anything you want on their website, 10% off when you use the code LTD10. I'll leave it down in the description below so you don't forget. Also, links to all those guys down below. And another one. Icon pistons. You guys want top quality, high performance pistons. There's only one piston to go with, and that's Icon pistons. Currently, they're made in 85.5, 92s, and 94s, 3 different pin heights. Go check them out. Where are you going to buy Icon pistons at? Well, I'm going to tell you that in just a minute, but first let me pump up the pistons a little bit. These are made from 4032 alloy, which allows you to run tighter piston to wall clearances, so you can get down, keep that compression, and make that motor put out maximum power. They've got 2 1.5 millimeter top rings and then a 4 millimeter bottom ring, which makes getting new rings for these things a lot easier. And also each piston gets M42 skirt coating to protect against dry startups, as well as give an extra layer of protection. The skirt profile is optimized for stability and performance in boxer engines. And how would these guys know? Because these guys make millions of pistons every year. And now the Big Boy Piston Company put out a line because there's a VW dude that snuck in through the back door and said, hey, boss, let's make some Volkswagen pistons. So the highest performance pistons that you can get right now, Icon pistons. Go get them checked out today. Where can you buy these Icon pistons? Type E Motorsports, CB Performance, RevMaster, the Dub Shop, and Churco Performance. So go check it out today. You want the best pistons? Make sure you only get Icon pistons. Okay, everybody. So the reason I kicked this podcast off that I really don't normally like review the shows, the weekends and all that stuff. But one thing I kept seeing on the internet was making me a little bit crazy. And the only reason it was making me crazy is because it was, I get the purpose, the VW revival. They're trying to revive the days of old for the classic that about 2 years ago was still happening. And there's been obviously changes in California with venues and all that kind of stuff. So it's been through its ebbs and flows. But one of the things that I kept seeing is that, you know, I saw multiple people post online, this was like the classic. And so I wanted to get feedback from some of the guys that I know go to these shows, have been going to these shows for a few years, and get them on there. We're going to talk about the weekend, what we felt, the good, bad, the ugly. So disclaimer at first, this is not meant to throw shade on anybody. If you take offense to this, you can't understand constructive criticism. The purpose of this is giving you the perspective from people that go to shows. I support as many car shows as I can within reason, that within a certain distance of mine. Heck, there's shows I go to, I pay to get in the show, never even register, because I'm not there to chase a trophy. I'm there to support the event. But when I go to a show, especially go to shows out of town, my intention is to go to the show, enjoy it, see friends that I've made over the years in other states, and kind of hang out and mingle. And so the reason I did this podcast is I wanted to see if it was me, am I crazy, or was this like the classic weekend and I just wasn't vibing it, or, you know, and also get the feedback from some other people that were there as well. So I know a lot of people that newer people in the scene that were like, oh, this is an incredible weekend. It was an incredible weekend. It was a good time. There's lots of stuff. And so I'm just going to give you my critique only because, well, it's not mine, it's me and a couple guys, and those two guys are on here. Joey Giordano from Workstat Restoration, Lee Bashaw from the DRKC, Duran K4 Cup Series, and, you know, he's got a super stellar Cowlick car. Lee Bashaw's got another car being built right now for his wife, Nicole, and they're working on that thing. And so I thought, you know what, let me reach out to two guys that drive a few hundred miles away to come down to this weekend that we've all kind of, it used to be like the best weekend, that first weekend in June, and get these guys on here. Let's get their perspective, what they felt about the show and the ins and outs. And it's not just a revival. It's a revival weekend. It's everything that went on that weekend. And it's also like, I didn't go to OCTO. I went to the RVA show instead. Saw some of you guys there. My homies from Aussie, from Australia. Big ups to those guys, man. Super dope to run into those guys, the listeners out there. And it was just great all around to see so many people from all over the world and all over the West Coast and East Coast, and a lot of people I met that listen to the podcast. So it was really great. The next show I'm going to be at was going to be the German Air show. So if you guys are in the Pacific Northwest, make sure you go to germanair.ca and get registered today at the German Air show. It is going to be Vintage VWs Inc. presents Ontario's premier VW show. And that's going to be taking place June 21st through 22nd at Fireman's Park in Niagara Falls. So go check it out. Get registered today if you're up in the Northeast. I'm going to be there. I'm actually bringing a Let's Talk Dubs award. So I'm going to be picking my favorite car of the show. So I'm bringing a special award that I'm making to hand out at the event, and looking forward to meeting a lot of the East Coast listeners in the Pacific Northwest, maybe some Canadians and things like that. It's going to be a good time. So Anyway, guys, without too much blathering about it, I had a great time this weekend. Overall, I had a great time. I mean, my purpose was to bring Wayne Callahan out there and also to debut Zorba. That was the goal. Coming out to that first weekend in California, if you got cars to debut, which Zorba was the first show it was going to in the West Coast in California, and also Wayne Callahan's 60 Watt built by Buddy Hale. I mean, his car is way nicer than mine, and we got all this stuff going on. So, my buddy Wayne doesn't have a truck or trailer, so we loaded him up, brought him down, and you heard him on the podcast a few episodes back. Wayne's owned this bug since brand new. It was just going to be a stock restoration, and now it's a Buddy Hale built, super sick 68 Beetle. So I'm sure you guys listen to the podcast. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. Shoot me an email, bill@letstalkdubs. And I would love if anybody that's involved with the event, if they'd want to come on and just discuss some of their thoughts and feelings about our perspective on it. I'm always welcome to have anybody on to come on the event or come on the podcast and talk about it, because the scene only gets better when we get feedback from those that are in the scene, and we can help make the scene better all at a time. You guys know I'm not a hater. I'm not throwing shade. That's not my thing, man. I just I love this hobby, and I want to see it continue to keep growing. So without much else, guys, we'll do some shout outs at the end. And without any further ado, guys, let's get into it. VW Revival Weekend Roundtable with Joey G Lee Bashaw, and yours truly on this week's live.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the bug like.
Okay, buddy. So on today's show, you may know, if you listen to the podcast, absolutely I was down at the VW Revival Weekend is what they were calling it this weekend. And I was excited to get down there and check out some stuff. And we're going to break down the weekend, kind of everything that happened. And I have a couple other guys on the podcast. And the reason why these two guys are on the podcast is two reasons. One, they've both been on the podcast before. Two, they've both built incredible, respectable cars, know what it takes to build a car for a show, and they've also experienced the classic weekend. So first up, I'd like to introduce Joey Giordano, Workstat Restoration. Joey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me.
And second, I've got Lee Bashaw, that you'll know Lee Bashaw from the Duran for Cup series, right, Lee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Lee, and both you guys are out of one's out of Northern California and one's out of, where are you guys out of respectively, Joey?
Out of Roseville.
So Lee's out of Roseville, and Joey, you're out of Galt?
I'm in Harold.
Okay, so you guys are both a couple hundred miles away from the event, same as myself. My drive there is 4 hours. How long does your guys drive to the event?
Mine on a trailer is 8 hours.
And then Lee?
I'm 400. Yeah, I'm 400 miles. Yeah, mine was about 9 hours in a trailer.
Okay, so Lee, you're a little bit further north, and so we've seen a change in the landscape of VW shows over the past couple of years, right? Between venues changing, things closing, and things not happening anymore. And so when I heard that this was happening, I was a little confused, because there was an event going on the 15th that I thought was kind of happening, and then this event kind of popped up after that. And I was only privy to the DKP thing because I'd gone on the California cruise, the CalLook cruise in Europe. So we're looking at the Revival Weekend, and the setup was going to be roughly the same, right? There was the DKK meet on Friday. There was the OCTO on Saturday, or the RVA show, and then Sunday was the VW Revival. So, guys, I want to talk today about your experiences going to the event and things like that, and based on what you would have done during the Classic versus what you did this weekend on the front end on your planning side, and what you did different and why. So, Lee, I'll start with you. What normally in the Classic weekend, what was your routine, and then what did you modify and why for this weekend?
Normally for the Classic weekend, you had DKP on, I think DKP was always, Thursday or Friday night?
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, so I would head down the day before, make it to DKP, and then Saturday, usually it's like, go to some of the other events that are around, and then Sunday for the classic, and then home on Monday.
So normally your event, you start on Thursday, get down a day early, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then what did you end up doing for this weekend? And what was the difference?
This weekend, I only planned on going to the Sunday revival. I originally didn't even plan for DKK because the original location, when I looked it up how small it was, I'm like, well, I don't want to deal with that as far as not getting a parking spot. So I didn't plan for it. And then personally, with the ISP West and the other OCTO events, I've never gone to those, so I don't really have any interest on going to those. I never planned for those.
So normally you would.
And then when I saw, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying normally you just go to like the toy and literature show that they would have at the host hotel, or what would you do on Saturday?
Saturday is usually like a day with my wife, just like a free day, going to the beach or whatever.
No problem.
Yeah, no VW stuff.
Try to keep the wife happy, understand. And then Joe.
Exactly, give and take.
Yeah, and then Joey, what about you? What was your normal routine on the classic weekend previously?
My normal routine, as you know, was DKP used to hold their event in downtown Garden Grove, and so that was a really unique, atmosphere as well. So I mean, I truly enjoyed that. So we would do that, but then I would stay at the host hotel. The host hotel was a car show in itself. Again, you kind of were hanging out with all the guys that were, in the scene. You're meeting people that, from social media platforms or whatever. It wasn't obviously as strong as it is now. But you could meet people and just different people just walking through the parking lot. It was just people would hang out by their cars, easy up. You can, and it was just kind of like, it was more of a chill out time before Sunday, the main event. Right. So that's where we kind of did. We just had some, we had, some food and drinks, just kind of got to meet everybody and just different people that you would never meet in a different scale just at that host hotel. The host hotel was really a big pivotal part of that. And then obviously we'd go to the classic, and that was our Sunday time, and we would do that and jump in the car and bomb home.
Now, what did you do this year? Did you have the same itinerary? Had the same plan? Did you stay at the host hotel? What did you do this year?
This year, since there was so much going on, you had to pick and choose. That was the biggest thing for me. That was kind of a struggle for me. I didn't stay at the host hotel because everybody I talked to were saying basically it's in the fourth lane of I-5. And I had already stayed at the Hampton Inn at the Long Beach Airport Resort. It was closer to OCTO, and they had parking as well for trailers. And I just did that resort. I've always been happy with that hotel. And so we did that. And then, got there Thursday. I headed out Thursday late morning, got there Thursday evening, got to kind of get up in the morning, kind of cruise down the PCH a bit, grab some food, headed over to the DKK cruise, and then geared up for OCTO on Saturday morning. I brought a friend of mine with me that had never been to an OCTO, so he wanted to experience that. So we did that. Then we ended up heading over to the ISP Open House, grabbed some food that evening, and then Sunday hit the revival. So.
And now, Lee, what did you end up doing? So this year you only came down. The only event you were going to attend was the revival. You said, why was that the only event you were going to attend?
The only reason I was going to attend that event is because it was the first one of its kind, and the 50th Cal Look section anniversary. That's the reason why I picked that event. As far as staying in the host hotel in Anaheim, there was no way I was doing. So we found a hotel in Capistrano that had plenty of trailer parking, and that way we could drive the bug to the event, dealing with the trailer and all of that in the parking lot.
Yeah, so my experience was I came down and I brought Wayne Callahan, who just had his 60 watt finished by Buddy Hale about a year ago. It hasn't been to a VW show yet. I was bringing Zorba down that was just finished by Spike's Vintage Restoration in the UK. It was delivered to me last September, and I thought this would be a cool place to debut both of those cars since it's going to be similar to the whole classic weekend, quote unquote, right? Like that was the whole thing that was different because it was DKK hosting the Friday night venue. When I got word that I was a little discouraged, I reached out to a friend of mine, Rick Meredith, who's in DKK, and I said, hey, listen, I don't want to spend a bunch of energy trying to get there to debut on Friday if there's not going to be parking for me. So I'm not trying to be rude, but it doesn't look like you got much parking. And then they changed the event. So I was happy to see that. I'd gotten a message to be there at 2:30. So I got there about 2:15 to get set up. And as I pulled in, it's myself and Wayne. We drove our cars, dropped the trailers off where we were staying in Irvine. We had about a 25 minute drive to the event. And then from there, as I pulled in, I was just kind of like, hey, what's going on, guys? Where would you want us to park the cars? Assuming that there was going to be a debut section for vehicles. And much to my surprise, apparently there was not, or there was, not really sure, but I was just they just said, yeah, just anywhere over there. And so I just, there's about 150 open spots. It was hot as blazes. So we parked the cars, knocked off the dust, and then decided to go get something to eat because they had free food, I think it was a free food setup and all that stuff set up over there. And by the time I got there at 2:30, they were still working on getting it together. So I just ended up going to get something to eat. And then with my buddies that I came there with, we hung out there for we hung out for quite a while. By the time we left, it was dark. So that means it was close to probably 7:30, 8 o'clock by the time we got out of there. And I got to say, I was anticipating there would be a debut row. We got kind of parked in the middle of just like wherever. And so that was kind of a surprise to me because I thought they were similar to like what they would do at the DKP meet. There would be a section for debut cars. And, I was a little surprised that, just whatever, go park over there. And the end spaces had already been taken by other cars. So it was like, all right, well, we'll just park in the middle of wherever here. And, that's it. So it turned out to be a great event. Tons of cars. It was unbelievably hot. My wife, she's like, I don't feel like standing in a hot parking lot. I'm like, it's California. It's not going to be a hot parking lot. Luckily, she stayed at the hotel because when I got there, look, I'm from Vegas. And you guys are from Northern California, right? Was it hot? Lee wasn't there, but Joey, was it hot?
Yeah, and I was tempted at a point to pull over and put my top back up because it was not a very joyous. But and that's Mother Nature. There's nothing they can do about that. But yeah, it was freaking. We were getting hammered.
No question. And so pulled in over there, hung out for a while, got to see a lot of people. A lot of people coming in and out. I was a little bummed out because it seemed they had a debut section, but it was Dino's car. There was a green split there for a minute, and then there was the cars from Impy, and I didn't, it was a lot different than the DKP meet, and I get it. But the venue was fantastic. There was tons of room for tons of cars. I think the other part that makes the DKP thing so cool, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I think when you're parked on a street frontage, so this event was back behind the place in a fenced-in parking lot, which I know it's tough to get spaces to do whatever, but the DKP meet was right at a drive-through that was right on the main boulevard. So it was kind of cool because there was traffic coming by, and it was just kind of people, you became kind of an attraction versus this was kind of a tucked away deal. Joey, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm glad they changed the venue so that they had more space, but they're definitely the downtown Garden Grove venue was definitely unique in its presentation. But at the end of the day, the venue they had was the way they did the food. You could get out of the heat with the air conditioning. That was kind of nice, but it definitely was a different vibe. And they stuffed the cars in there, which I understand. They're trying to get as many as they can. It's just, you can't anticipate the turnout. So they had a great turnout. They dealt with it very well. And I think that overall, they handled the parking and stuff the best they could with the situation because it's a monster. You have no idea what you're building and you have no idea how many people are going to show up. And that's one of the factors when you're having an open event like that. And this, Bill.
It looked like a great event. After they changed the location, I was like, oh man, I wish I could have gone to that one.
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of us from distant places, we try to make events, and you'd already booked your rooms for down south by the venue down there. So that was,
I had everything booked by February.
yeah, it makes kind of Lee's what you call a planner. I think I booked my stuff a week before, but then again, you know what I mean? Like, listen, some people prepare and some people just shoot from the hip. So
I was about 2 weeks out, Bill, so I wasn't far ahead of you.
But, so overall, the DKK thing was a really cool meet. The location was great. Everything was cool. I just thought that there would be a space for debut cars that are debuting that weekend, first time in the show circuit. So that's my only real kind of complaint on that was that didn't seem, because when you go to the other meets where there's like cars that debut, they have a row where just debut cars are going there so everybody can check them out. So now on to the next day. So because I didn't bring a bus, I didn't bother going to OCTO, and I've gone to the RVA show before and I really liked it. I liked the atmosphere and all that stuff. So I went to the RVA show. That was a pretty cool event. The location is great. It's got a pretty cool vibe. A lot of people. It wasn't super hot. It was much cooler on Saturday, and so it wasn't bad. The load in was not too terrible. And I kind of got tucked back and away and around the corner, and that's fine. Still plenty of the only bummer is like, because I do the podcast and a lot of people hear me, they're like, hey, where I didn't see Zorb at the show. And I'm like, yeah, it was over here and around the corner. No big deal though. There's plenty of pictures online, but a lot of people want to see the car in person, and I think when you're debuting a car, both Wayne and I picked up a club pick at the DKK event, and we both got best in class at the RVA event, and those guys do a good event. There's a lot of cool places to eat. Like it's something you can get pretty comfortable at over there. So the RVA show for me was cool. The only thing that I was a little conflicted about is that the old days of the classic we used to do, we used to have the open houses on Thursday and Friday, and then the Friday meet at DKP, and some places would actually have an open house on Saturday too. So
you used to have like West Coast Classic with Lenny.
Correct. And so there would always be a big turnout over there. I think the West Coast Classic was a thing just before Nick's, because Nick's was after that, and then it was kind of a whole thing. And this might be pre Joey's experience, because this was when they used to do it.
I went to DKP on back in 2005. It was on Thursdays back then, not Fridays.
Yeah, because and again, things got shuffled around a little bit, and it's been. Again, they're trying to, that's what they call it, revival. They're trying to do a revival on the weekend. I don't know why it didn't seem like there was much advertising for the RVA show. I think if the RVA show continues to get bigger, they're going to have to, if the club puts it on, the club's going to have to pull their cars out of the event and put other participants' cars, because they're limited on how many cars they can get in there. And it's a really cool event. And I know that we do that at One Crazy Weekend. Like if we get packed, some of the club members got to pull out of the space so we can have participants come in there. But the RVA marketing was a little bit low. A lot of people weren't sure if it was happening or not, because it seemed a little sporadic, so they could polish up a little bit on the marketing to make people know that it's happening, and I think because it's limited, there's a lot of people that pre-reserve their space and stuff like that. So maybe that's just me, but and then OCTO, Joey, you went to OCTO, I didn't. So what's OCTO was just OCTO?
OCTO was great. I mean, they had a great turnout. I was bummed I missed the RVA show. In my history with RVA, I'm used to it being on a totally different weekend, and I appreciate that show, because you get some of the super early stuff that you aren't going to see at other shows, and you get some people's private collection stuff and those types of things. But because I'm used to, last time I went to RVA was at the Phoenix Club, right? Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Well, they've had it. They've had it. As far as I know, they've had it at Old World, but they have had some stuff at the Phoenix Club a while back. But I'm not sure if it was RVA or the Treffen.
I want to say it was RVA, but
it could have been RVA. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the last time, and that was my struggle. Is I could, you had to pick and choose this weekend, and for me, I I wanted to experience. I love the OCTO because you're just dealing with early buses and those, the stuff that you usually don't see. Because up here in Northern California, we have SOTO. Mike does a great job putting that together. But you go down to SoCal, you see just a different group of buses. And like I said, I brought somebody with me that had never experienced that. He's a bus fan and wanted to check that out. And so I thought maybe I could probably balance or juggle the two different events. It just wasn't realistic that day. So I did. So that's what I ended up doing. And then after that, I ended up heading over to the ISP Open House.
Yeah, I got to the ISP Open House a little bit late because it took me about an hour plus to get out of the show because, some people disappear from their cars and then, if they won't move, you can't get out. So by the time I got out of the RVA show, it was probably at that time it was 3:30, 3:40 by the time I got out. They did the awards at 2, and then I headed over to the ISP West show. And then I got there, and it was wrapping up pretty soon. And by the time I got there, they were out of drinks and all that kind of stuff. No big deal. Kind of that's the tough thing, right? The shows start to overlap, and you can't get to the open house to go check stuff out because that's part of the fun of the weekend, right? Where maybe sometimes they jam too much stuff that overlaps. But that's what ended up happening with me. I went over there, hung out there for about an hour and a half, and then just headed back to the hotel to get shut down and prepped for the next morning. Now, I stayed in Irvine, not far from the old host hotel, because when I looked on the Google map for the host hotel that was happening down in Anaheim, it was just way too small to even spend any time going to that with a trailer, especially I was pulling a 40-foot trailer. So I stayed near Irvine. Actually, it was just on the border of Irvine and Santa Ana. And so I stayed there, and we got up in the morning probably at we decided to leave at 6:30, I think it was. And it was about a 35-minute drive from the hotel near the old Classic south to the new venue. Now, I knew when I got to the new venue, because as I pulled up, I didn't see any signs for it, but I saw a long line of cars parked on the road. And then as I'm approaching the end of the line, about 10 Volkswagens make illegal U-turns in front of me so that they can jump in line before I get there. So then I'm parked there for quite a bit. And at about I think they started opening up the gate about 7:30. Start letting people in, stuff like that. Now, Lee, did you drive to the event?
Yeah, we drove from our hotel, left the truck and trailer there. It's about a 15-20 minute drive on the 5 to, what is that, Ortega Road or Ortega Highway. And then, we left at about 6:30 also. So we were probably about 15 minutes ahead of you. And when we pulled up, I did not expect to see that long line wrapped around the block.
My only complaint about the line is it was a little bit dangerous for all of us to have our cars there on the side of the road while traffic's just going by, and it's just a recipe for something no good. You know what I mean? Like with the RVA show, they have everybody pull into there's a Costco across the street, and they ask everybody to stage up at Costco before they come in. Then someone comes over and says, "Can you guys take your cars over?" Then tells the next guys take their cars over and stuff. So. They handle it a little differently. Obviously, it's two different venues, two different everything, and I don't know how far they loaded cars down. What time did you get to the revival, Lee?
I got there probably like 6:45.
And how many cars were in line when you got there?
I was literally parked at the corner of Ortega and whatever that. When you turn right there to go to the into the park.
Oh, so you were the first car that started coming down the 2-lane road?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I was really at the crosswalk corner, parked at that angle right there.
Okay, and you got there at 6:30?
It's about 6:45 because I think we left the hotel at 6:30.
Yeah. So, and then Joey, what time did you get to the revival? What time did you show up over there?
So I was already loaded up. I ended up taking my trailer over there so I can just kind of just load up and leave and start heading back up north.
And that's because it's a Sunday show, so you want to pack it up at the end of the day and take off and try to make it home. after the event.
Exactly, because this whole adulting thing kind of has to happen.
Right.
So I had to get back, business to run, things to do. So, and that was kind of my mindset. So I had strapped down, loaded up the night before, and I left right there. I was right there in I stayed right by OCTO, right there by Veterans Memorial Stadium. Took me about 50 minutes to get to where I was going. I left about 5:30. So I got there, and I was on the main street right into the venue, and I was I'd say maybe 30, 40 cars back, and on the main street going into the venue. So I wasn't too far back.
So you were there before 6:30?
Yeah, I was there about 6:20.
Okay. So you had your truck and trailer, because as we pulled into the event, as you and I were leaving the event, I saw the amount of dust that you were kicking up on that road. And that was my first impression when I came up to that. It's the first time I'd gone to a car show, looked down, because you were kind of up on the street above looking down at the road driving in. And I saw the dust cloud that was down there. And I thought I should probably roll up my window so I don't have to clean the interior also. It was kind of my...
Yep, did the same thing too.
So for me, I got there. Nobody was going into the event yet. So I ended up, and I Google Earth this before, and I'm looking, and I was like, this is an equestrian park. And it looked, based on the pictures, it didn't look very inviting. It looked really dry and super and dusty. But when I drove in, like you said, we're up above. I'm looking down. I see nice green grass. Everything's looking good. The parking lot's dialed. It looks, there's a roller out there. There's a water truck, and I'm like, okay, cool. No one's driving in there yet. I ended up unloading on the street before I pulled into the venue.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
And it top up or top down?
Top down.
And so as you went in there, and what exhaust do you have on your car?
I have an A1 Sidewinder.
Yeah. So, and I actually saw
it and fitted underneath of it with F2 oil cooler, and a fan that blows up. And
I saw Tiger there, and I said dust control was looking for him, because he made all these exhausts that I call the street sweeper exhausts. But that's what my big fear was. And then I was lucky enough to get the 3 cars in front of me were stalkers that had pea shooters. And then there was a slam bus behind me that I was able to get plenty of room between him and me, because I saw he had a Sidewinder that was just pushing dirt everywhere. And it didn't seem so crazy until I parked my car. And then I saw the problem was the dust you got on there coming through. And then when you hit the grass was wet. My understanding was they turned off the sprinklers at 3 a.m. because it was incredibly humid at the event. It was real swampy down there.
Big time.
Yes.
Yeah, poor Wayne that was sitting in the chair was sweating through his shirt, and I'm like, you need some shade, because they had. Well, so when I pull in, so part of the challenge was those guys were cutting me off, and then I just kind of went straight a little bit, and then I realized, I can't get in any other way, and then there was some guys that were like waving me over, and they're like, here, pull in here. So I don't want to say I jumped the line, but I jumped the line a little bit, not on purpose, but I was going to flip a U-turn. These guys waved me and said, hey, just pull in front of this truck. And so these were guys that I talked to at a couple other events. And so we roll in the show. And so you're just kind of where you are, right? And so I get where I'm at. And then I pull in. And of course, they said no one's allowed to pull off or wait for friends. You need to go converge with your friends elsewhere so you can be parked together. So then I get in. And I'm probably 5 rows back from the front, and there was a spray painted line on the ground. The guys to my left in the buses pulled about 2 feet further than the front of my car. So as you looked on the line, you couldn't see my car anywhere. It kind of disappeared. And then I was I was a little bit bummed out. I thought, well, this really sucks, because I'm over here behind this giant billboard, and no one's going to be able to see Zorba unless you're looking for him. And so... Anyway, I sat there, talked to Tim Eubanks for a bit, and then I walked up to get the blower from Wayne, because we brought a leaf blower. And
that thing was a lifesaver.
Yeah, just to try to get the dust off the cars. And I ended up seeing Frenchie, and Frenchie says, where's Zorba? And I said, well, Zorba's back 5 rows to the left, and then see 2 buses, then look behind the buses, and that's where I'm at. He's like, no, bring it up here, because that car deserves to be at least up front in the front area, right, where people can see it. Because, again, it's a debut car, and it's different if like all the Type 3s. When you go to the Classic you split down the middle, vintage to the left, custom to the right, and the first row was split windows or ovals, second row was big windows, third row was late models, fourth row was square backs, Type 3s. You know what I mean? Like there was an order to the way the cars were brought in.
Yep.
And I know that they were committed to not having that on this one, which it takes time and requires, people to separate cars and do that stuff. But, it creates issues down the road that we'll talk about. Now, what was your guys' experience pulling in?
So for me, Lee, I had a completely different experience, Bill, because I ended up, I got there when I did. Thought, man, I got to get a place in line. Next thing you know, the guy officiating parking must have knew who was setting it up. Because I'm kind of I'm not as well known as a lot of people, and I don't know a lot of SoCal guys, so I don't kind of have that clout or that connection. Mm-hmm. But they made me stop, pull to the side, and probably let 20 Type 3s go by me so they could all blind empty. Then, by chance, I ended up getting where I got, which was right across from you. So, that was kind of an interesting thing for me, that kind of happens, especially now since you said, that they didn't want to do any of that, but they did for select, kind of people, which it is what it is.
Right.
I understand. And, I got a lot of Type 3 love. But it was just kind of interesting that you say that Norba couldn't have a spot. You couldn't peel off and do your thing. And then you had to, you got to, after, they realized that you weren't where the car could get.
Frenchie was just like, because Frenchie was with us at the hotel this weekend, and he's seen the car.
Yeah.
And he really likes the car, and he says, well, where'd you park Zorba? And I said, I'm all the way in the back. And he says, bring it up here, because you know what I mean? So it wasn't like I was complaining to him. He was just like, that car needs to be up front where people can see it, because unfortunately the way the parking lot was kind of parked, you can't see everything, and buses have a tendency to block other cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and my point there is like not complaining at all, or even saying that that's what happened. Yeah, my main thing is like, yeah, your car, that car deserves to be seen, and put where it is. And you were saying that, they didn't let you initially do that, but I'm glad they did. But for me, they definitely, I got stopped and pulled to the side so that all the Type 3 guys could be together, which is cool. It is what it is. But it's kind of, sometimes there's just some double standards, you know what I mean? And that's kind of that could be an interesting experience for people, which for me, I was totally cool with it. But since you made the point that they weren't allowing that to happen, it's kind of an interesting dynamic, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your experience pulling into the event?
Pulling in it was pretty wild when you go down that downhill drop in, and then, they were directing me, now that I'm thinking about it, after Joey was talking. Yeah, they were trying to direct me towards the back, and I kept pointing, saying, no, I need to go over to the cow look section with Frenchie. And the woman, I don't know who she was, she just kept pointing towards the back, and I kept trying to tell her, like, no, I'm going over there. And then finally Frenchie walked over, and then that's when he said, yeah, come over here, you're with me. And then I was actually the first cow look car there in that cow look section. So then Frenchie just parked me, and that was that. But yeah, I was wondering about that, because you would think, obviously if it's a Cowlook car, they knew exactly where to put it. But
right,
I think they were just going to push everybody to the back and work their way to the front.
Yeah. So with that being said, still looking at pulling into those events and comparing it to like, is it like the class? Because part of this is I've seen so many posts online that it's just like the Classic weekend. It was exactly like the Classic weekend, and that's what really prompted me to want to do this podcast, because, we'll kind of save for the end if we felt like it was like the Classic weekend. But part of my concern with the other part, so now I get my car in, and my car is dusted out. So I bring the car up to the front after Frenchie has me come up to the front, and I use the air blower after I use the air blower. And one thing I really dislike, I hate wiping cars down, but I hate worse looking like the bad parent with spaghetti in your kid's face. So I got to do something so it just doesn't look just disgustingly dirty. So I ended up, spending probably like 35 minutes just wiping the heavy dust off the car. It still needed a serious cleaning, but I was just like, you know what? Let me just knock this out real quick. And so I did that. My other friends, that when I jumped the line, they were probably 12 cars behind me, because those 10 that cut me off, and then, the guys that let me in the front of their trailer. And so my buddies who are about 12 cars back had parked their cars, walked to the registration booth and got the registration booth. And then I realized I need to go, because some people came by and said, hey, where's the placard for your car? I want to vote for your car. I'm like, I haven't registered yet. I've been busy wiping the car down. And by the time I got into the event, it's about 8:30, doing everything that I had to do. It's now about 9:30. And so then I walk over, and the line to get the registration card that took about 30 minutes to get through. And I couldn't understand why. And then when I went up to the front, and I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, right? But it's like, understand the plan here, right? The plan is to get people registered, because you've now limited voting time. You're now, I found out People's Choice, and it really irritated me because People's Choice, we're going to talk about People's Choice in a minute. So I walk up to the front to fill out my form that I can hand to them, because they have pencils up front to fill that out. And as I'm there, I'm listening to this nice lady who's a great person, but every single person that's coming up, she's making a comment about either where they're from, what vehicle they have, or something, and striking up a small conversation for about 2 or 3 minutes with each participant, which when there's 40, 50 people in line, that is now adding a long time to get through that line. That was my experience. What was your guys' experience getting through that line? Because
my experience was I used my asset. I sent Nicole. She went and did the registration for me while I was wiping the car down.
Yeah.
She took care of all that.
Yeah. So, and then Joey, what about you?
I was there pretty early.
Yeah.
So I didn't have, I got there pretty quick. I wanted their little bus momentum that they came out with, and then I also wanted an event shirt. So those are 3 priorities for me. After I started kind of going at cleaning the dust off the car, but at the end of I just wanted to make sure that happened before the line got ridiculous. But once it gets to that point, it's definitely, I get your point. To the point is efficiency is key, and it's great to be personable and stuff. But when you're talking about a voting that ends at 11 o'clock, and you're trying to get, and because I kind of had the same issue, because when I got back to my car, I didn't go right in and put my number on my car. I started cleaning off the dust, and so it took me a bit to do that. So, and so the line for me was pretty efficient, but they were sweethearts. And they did a good job, doing what they did, but definitely, efficiency. Cause we put on shows as well up here in Lodi, for straight up dubs, and it's nuts and bolts in this business when you're doing that part of it. Because you want to get everybody in and out, because everyone wants to get set up and done so they can start relaxing,
Yeah. And that was maybe that's my mistake, that I decided to wipe my car down. I hope I cleaned it before I came down there, and I was hoping not to do anything when I got there. And unfortunately, between being parked on the side of the road and the traffic driving by, and then driving through that dirt road, my car was just a disaster. By the time I got in there. So by the time I registered, so my friends that were 10 cars behind me, my friends that were 10 cars behind me ended up, they walked right up to the registration booth, and they were entrance number 150 and 151. By the time I moved my car, wiped it down, and got in line and got to the front, my entrance number was 303. So then I put my placard in the window, and now I have my job to do. My People's Choice job is what I have to do. And so that, if there's one thing I dislike, is People's Choice. Now, I thought People's Choice was difficult because you had to walk around, find the car, do that kind of stuff. Now, with One Crazy Weekend, I thought I had it solved. I have window placards that have a QR code. Pull your phone out, vote for it. That's it. That's all you got to do. Vote for whatever cars you like, and it's a total tally of votes, right? Well, this year, I don't think I'm going to do that, because no one does it. You cannot get people to vote. So usually in the past, they would say, we'll give you a dash plaque after you go vote. So I went to go vote, got to the point about after probably 20 minutes, it's like there's no rhyme or reason why the cars are parked. So you're not going to see everything. And then you walk by a car like, oh shoot, that car is way cleaner than the other one. Scratch this out, put this number. Cause I have a conscience and I'm trying to do like a job voting, but I went to a car show not to pay $20 so I could vote, not so I could judge the show. You know what I mean? Because it always seems to be he who has the most friends at the event wins. The recipe for winning at the Classic was get the first parking space. If you get the first parking space, you have a higher probability of winning because people walk down the lines, vote for the first car they see. You know what I mean? And then it's like,
yeah,
and it's that. So I was really bummed out to see People's Choice. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
That's how Sacramento was too. Buckarama's. If you had the prime parking spot, you had a way better chance of winning.
Yeah, and it's just chaos. Joey, what do you think about People's Choice?
Well, for me, I'm with you on it. And you kind of get that. Even though there was a disclosure at the bottom, please be fair about this. Don't get the thing going where you're like, hey, you vote for my car, I'll vote for your car, blah blah blah. Which it still happens. And it was interesting for me. And I said I really struggled because they had categories. The categories were so very generic. I mean, you had a Vanagon category. I think there was 2 Vanagons for the whole,
right.
At the whole show. You had a water-cooled category, and I think there was maybe 2 water-cooled there. And then you had, different categories for bugs. You didn't, and to me, when you're doing an event like that and you're trying to promote, a positive environment and just people, if you want people to pick stuff, the more categories or the more you break it down, the easier it is for those people to make those choices, right? Because even with you, they put the Type 134s with, I think they put them with the Type 3s, correct?
Yeah, all the Type 3s were together, and then plus I'm parked in kind of a different space. So, and for me, it's like I've never been a trophy chaser. It doesn't bother me. I know that some people that get awards. I've had people that are high-level car builders that showed up at a show and brought the baddest car there, but because for whatever reason, the club pick or whatever went to a different car, and this guy happened to be a member of the club or a recurring member of the club or whatever the case is. And then people turn around and go, oh yeah, well your car got skunked by that one. And then the people that put all that time, effort, energy building a car that is nicer than the car that won, they get a little upset. So my take on those types of things, like at One Crazy Weekend, we have a person that judges the cars, then we have builder awards. Lee, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to go to the event. It was the first one of the year, and everyone has their own versions of judging cars, how they want to have it happen. I definitely don't go there for chasing any trophies. I'm just there to hang out and participate and be there with the people that I see once a year, basically.
Yeah, and that with respect to, do you feel that from your standpoint, do you feel People's Choice is a very fair thing? And then like with your group, you're in a cowlet group. It's really difficult when you've got, a handful, a dozen cars in one group, and there's only a couple awards because every car's got its plus and minuses, right? And so usually a lot of times what happens is, everybody's got their thing. And so I think sometimes when, that's what we've tried to solve with One Crazy Weekend is like, we have builder picks, right? So we have people that build cars, pick their favorite cars, and then we do a top 20 that's judged by my brother. Is more than happy to sit with someone and go over how he judged their car and point out some issues they have. Because we've had that. People say, oh, how come I didn't win and whatever. But, it was the People's Choice thing has got to die. Promoters, here's my attitude. Promoters need to have, it's not hard to pay some to take 5 guys, pay them $100 and have them pick a top 20, and then they compare it, and then they can spend, if they spend 3 hours voting, that's great. But at least it's kind of a fair shot. There's no classes, categories, or anything. There's just their 20 favorite cars. And the challenge is as the groups get bigger and bigger and bigger, it's, when it's People's Choice, it can be slanted real hard. And then it just makes people, they might as well, it'd have been better if they just called it a meet and there was no awards type thing. You know what I mean? And so I didn't know. I did notice, and I don't know, Lee, you might know how many, I know there's a lot of DKK cars there. How many DKP cars were there?
DKP, I think there was four total I saw.
Okay. And then the Deeks showed out pretty heavy. There's probably like 20 of them pulled in all parked together.
They had to go relocate because they were so big they wouldn't fit in the cowlook area.
Right. So, overall, I mean, the way I'm looking at this is when you say it's like the classic weekend, what's your guys? I mean, you guys can elaborate, give a long answer, or just a simple yes or no. Would you say the descriptions where you see some of these pictures online say it felt just like the classic weekend? Would you agree with that, Lee?
I would not agree. To me, it was just a whole new venue. It was a whole new experience.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't compare it to the classic. To me, the classic's always been, whether it was at the Irvine Amphitheater or the Orange County Fairgrounds.
Yeah, and as
far as the classic weekend, if you want to say the weekend, it was always Friday, DKP, and then some of the other shops on Saturday, and then the classic on Sunday.
So, did it make you feel like the classic weekend was revived, like this thing is back, or did you feel that was there too many things to choose from and you kind of had to pick and choose, or was the distance between events a problem? Like what did it make you feel was worth it, not worth it, if anything?
Well, it was an all new show, new venue. So I wanted to experience that, give it a try and see how it goes, be part of it. Plus you had the 50th Cowlook anniversary section. So I wanted to be part of that. That was my main focus. My main focus when it comes to any car shows is anything Cowlook related. I'm going to do my best to go
and support the event. So will you go back? So now you've done the event once. Do you think you'll go back to this event?
Well, Andy did a great job. In my opinion, I thought that was a great venue. And under the circumstances of losing Irwindale and Fontana, but the only way personally I would go back is if they laid a carpet out over that dirt. I'm not driving through that dirt no more. That was too much. Because my plans were to, wash the car the day before, go to the event, and then bring it home, and then go back a week later and maybe clean the windshield of any bug splatters. But like today I'm going to jack the whole car and take all the tires off, and I'm going to clean all underneath and everything, get it ready for next week.
Yeah, so you've got a job ahead of you to get that dialed in.
And borrowing Wayne's blower, that helped huge. And then when I got home yesterday, when I took the car out of the trailer, I blew it off with my blower out in the street before I brought it in the garage. Yeah,
no, it was definitely I have my thoughts, which I'll conclude with my thoughts. But Joey, what about you? You've been to the event. Did it give you classic vibes? Did you feel that thing coming back? Was there too many things to pick from? Like, what's your overall feeling about the weekend? And if you do come back, what would you bring, or what would you?
All right. So like you, Bill, I mean, I'm with you as far as, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, just kind of didn't get to elaborate on. I'm with you as far as the voting has to definitely be done. It needs to be more specific. I've done other car shows like you. I like American cars as well. And I like other cars. And so trying to get a group of people or a club to kind of be a host club, when you do one crazy weekend, you get that group of people, they sit around a round table, they kind of hash it out. You kind of take away that element of, you're my bro, I'll vote for you if you vote for me. And then it just kind of that kind of is interesting. And like you, I'm not a trophy chaser. I mean, at the end of the day, I want to build something that people can appreciate. And that's my ultimate goal. As far as the venue goes, fantastic venue. I appreciated the grass. That's a different element as opposed to being on blacktop. The dirt road, they can take that thing. I will my car. I mean, as you know, I just had it at Sacramento Autorama. I spent 2 days to get that thing cleaned up for that event. I took it right out of my trailer after Autorama in Sacramento. And I'm gonna have to put mine up on a lift, and it'll take a substantial amount of time to clean underneath that thing too. That was that's the worst road. I would never drive down that road ever again. Andy did a great job as far as putting the venue together. I think there's, for a first time event, it went well. and it's just a lot to try to figure out, especially at a new facility. As far as it being like the old classic weekend, I truly think that there was just too much put into one weekend for a true enthusiast. Because I have a love for buses, and I love the ocean. I love the beach. Being on the pier would have been an epic event, and I just didn't want it. I just think that if we try to space some stuff out, it would make it a much more enjoyable enthusiast type of experience. Because and I know they're trying to cram as much as they can. Because I mean, even once the classic kind of died down, we went to Prado. You had we could go camp at Prado, come back on start there on Friday, dip out, go to OCTO on Saturday, and then back to Prado, which and it was kind of nice because you could break that part of it up. And so I just think there's just too much, and I think it kind of it's hard to get people to coordinate if they're putting on their own event. But I just think you could have a much more a larger turnout if there wasn't so much crammed into that weekend.
Yeah, and I think there's I'm going to give my summary on it, because when I started seeing posts like this feels just like the classic, for a guy who was debuting a car, I did not feel that way. I did not feel like it was the classic weekend. I did not like it with our event with the top 20 cars. That's like, and we have people walking through the field judging cars. That's different. And so our event's more of a hang. Like One Crazy Weekend is less about the show and more about the hang. And that's why we don't charge. Everybody walks in the door. We kind of do something different. But in hindsight, like, would I go again? I would not. If I were to go again, well, I probably wouldn't go again because it's so far away from Irvine, and there was so many people that are at the normal event that were missing from that event, and I think it's because the distance of how far it was. And I know that it's difficult to find a place that falls within the regulations and all this stuff. I need to figure out what I can do. If I were to go again next year, because there's buses by the pier, stuff like that, taking my wife, things like that. If I were to do it again next year, because I did RVA this year, I debuted the car, I did all that stuff. It was a little lackluster because next week I'm going back to California for the DKP thing. Well, Zorba's not a Cal-Look car, and I'm bringing my BRM chop top. I'm bringing my chop top out to that event because, I did the Cal-Look caravan with everybody in the UK, and then I'm going to a Cal-Look event, so I'm bringing a Cal-Look car for that. I brought out Zorba this weekend to kind of debut it at the show for all the people that didn't see it and stuff. Overall, part of my frustration was no one likes People's Choice ever. So, just get rid of the People's Choice and pay 5 people $100 each to go through it and judge some cars and give you back some ballots. I think that'd be a fair thing to do for people that kind of put time and effort, because my concern's not me. I don't care. Like, I don't care if I get an award or not. My favorite award, like I've said a million times on the podcast, is a second place Bug-A-Rama from Sacramento, and my bus is on the trophy. You know what I mean? Like, that's my favorite award because it's a testament to People's Choice, where a guy stands by his bus all day, telling people to vote for him, and everybody feels bad. Like, this guy's really working for a vote. Let me give him a vote. And it's just, it's fine. I'm irrelevant, but my purpose for coming down was to debut a car. And I kind of felt like I got snubbed a little bit, and I don't know why. and you know what I mean? Like, I like to think that I try to do some positive things for the hobby, and it is what it is. But let's say if this was happening next year, I would probably not go to the revival. I would bring a bus, and I would just go to the Friday night meet. I would go to OCTO, and then I would go to buses on the pier probably next time, since I've done everything this year. And my biggest challenge is this event is so far from everything that I don't know. I'm not sure that the promoters, when I look at it from a 30,000 foot view of the whole event, the hotel was not friendly for out of towners. The host hotel, not friendly at all. I wouldn't say it was definitely not trailer friendly. When I talked to some people that stayed there, they said there was a handful of people from Arizona staying there and like 2 guys from up north, and that was it. And one guy was going to go home because it had no trailer parking. And so the dust was just a massive killer for me. And I normally don't care if I'm driving my bus because all my bus have been on the road for years. But I was driving my new car, and I hate cleaning cars. And like I got mud all over the undersides of my wheel wells because when leaving the show, you get everything wet, you sling up dirt everywhere. And when I loaded on the trailer, like I've got mud around the tires and stuff from driving through the wet grass, which was still wet when we left at 3 o'clock and then going out of the thing. So overall for me, it's a bummer. But I think more importantly, because I think the part that was frustrating me is I've been the classic. I've been the classic since every year since 2002. Every single year I've been to the classic. I haven't missed one. Only ones I've missed is ones that haven't been, right? I have shirts. I was going through my shirt pile last night. I got shirts from all of them. And it was just like, when I see everybody post online, this was just like the classic weekend. Maybe for locals it was. Maybe for locals that don't have to drive, don't have to get a hotel, don't have to do all the stuff that maybe is an inconvenient thought for some of the people putting on the events. But maybe they should think about those of us, which is probably 40% of their people that come from out of town. Maybe if they're just doing a thing for locals, maybe that's where I'm wrong. Maybe it's just for locals, but between, not having the experience of like when I debuted the gray car, when I debuted the carbon cab, when I debuted the Bull Run bus, all those things, I was at DKP, I was at all those events, and they definitely did some stuff. There's some other things that I know that didn't go on. I know previously they would reach out to some of the clubs or some of the guys that are like heavy hitters and bring in some nice stuff. And they would say like, and I'm not talking about anything connected with me. I'm just talking about other people that I know that normally bring out like, these guys are bringing something out every year. They normally reach out to those guys, say, hey, is there anything you guys need? Can we let you in early? What can we do to get you guys set up? Because some of these guys are bringing such stuff that they need to get early access, So it's in hindsight, I look at it as I would, if it's for locals, forget everything that I'm saying. If it's for us that have to travel hundreds of miles out of the way, I know that weekend is at a minimum, and I even calculated my receipts, at a minimum, just off the top of my head, hotel rooms were $450 for the 3 nights. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, it was $450, fuel, all that stuff, show entry, money I spent, whatever. For me, it was, $1,000. It's a minimum $1,000 expense. I spent, I think, $500 to Revival buying a steering wheel for my bus, for an impy wheel from Now, and then, some other stuff that I bought, trinkety stuff here and there. But, it's a lot of money that we put into doing that stuff. And you're kind of bummed because half your friends are at the pier, half your friends are over here, and you're just like, well, this is a drag. And I know the promoters don't have much choice for that. But, I think next year, if I were to do the same weekend, I'd probably bring a bus and go to the pier, or probably just jet back on Saturday because the Sunday shows are tough for us out of towners. So, and then maybe in hindsight looking at it, maybe it's not for us out of towners because Sunday's the day that they do it. And I've always, that's the reason why everybody leaves. In my opinion, everyone leaves the classic early because it's on Sunday. And that's why you see the place after 12 o'clock is a ghost town. Am I wrong?
Yeah, and I think that Andy, and with his schedule, his initial game plan was to try to get awards done by 11, so that and I think he was sensitive to that. As far as his timeline goes, because at least they can get drug out till 4 o'clock. We were on the road by 2, so I'm not super upset about that. But I agree with you as far as the hotel thing, Bill, because that was a big part of the old classic, like the culture and the environment of that hotel. Everybody just in the parking lot. There was like a car show at the host hotel. So I'll be honest with you, I missed that. And then you go to these other hotels, and man, they find out you have a trailer and they rip your head off. I spent my parking for the 3 nights that I was there was $210 to park my truck and trailer. And they're looking to just rip, it was kind of a disheartening freaking thing. I was like, you guys got to be kidding me. And, I actually got into it with the lady. It's like, hey, look, you show me you should prove, you give me any documentation that says you charge for an extra large vehicle and you guys have it, I'll gladly pay it. And they couldn't find it. And so they just look at it as an opportunity to kind of rip our head off. So, I mean, it's kind of a, that element of the car world is trying, the key is be trying to find a hotel that facilitates and is willing to try to make it so it's a realistic, parking situation, because outside of town with trailers, and then I called and asked if they allow trailers. Yeah, didn't explain anything. Next thing you know, because I mean, I'm pushing $2,000 for this weekend.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that was kind of it was kind of lame in that aspect of things. And I think that, if we find a decent host hotel, and I'm sure it's hard to find, but at the end of the day, it was for the host hotel to be in Anaheim and the event to be in Mission Viejo. Yeah. That's a huge spread. I think, that definitely could, that definitely can help the event. I think if we could find something that's closer and facilitated what we needed,
Lee, what was your total out of pocket, Lee?
It was $1,400, and the hotel that we stayed at in San Juan Capistrano facilitated trailer parking, and there was no fee, so we got lucky with that.
Nice.
I do the same thing every year. Wherever those shows are at, I just Google map hotels nearby looking for trailer parking, and then ask them what they charge. But this place actually had marked out sideways parking for trailers, long ways along the curb.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I had no problems with that.
Well, that's good, man. Well, guys, I just wanted to review the thing. And again, if anybody's listening to this and thinking like we're blasting with hate, my whole point of doing this podcast is that there's a solid 40% of us that come from out of town. And there's a lot of things that I felt were not taken into consideration with all of the quote unquote accommodations, whether it be host hotel, trailer parking, ease of access to different venues. So like if you live in California, if you live in Southern California and your entire radius is going to be 50 miles, that's one thing. If you're driving from 300 plus miles away, that's a different experience altogether. And, I had heard that at the host hotel, you could not access it without having to make a U-turn to get into the hotel. And I don't know how you're pulling that off next to Disneyland with a truck and trailer. So maybe I could be 100% wrong. This could be set up for locals only and no out of town people, or maybe just this year it was like, we lost the venue on the 15th. Let's find a place. Let's do the best that we can. I would definitely probably attend an event if they move the venue closer to Orange County area.
Yeah, and that's a reality too, Bill, because even doing shows here in the Valley, when we're up by Sacramento, you put on an event, they just start getting unrealistic with pricing, requirements, regulations, what you can do, and they make it so it's impossible to have a show. So my hat's off for Andy. I mean, obviously he had to probably put together this event and try to make it happen. And I mean, there's obviously going to be a budget. You can't, be unlimited budget because, by the time you pay your insurance fees, you pay for the venue, you pay for the bathrooms, you pay for security, whatever you have. And then if you have food trucks, then you got to have a fire inspection. If there's so many different elements to these shows because we put them on as well. And I've been an intricate part of that. They don't, the Vegas show, luckily the Orleans, they work with you much easier than a venue like Irwindale or the facility that, the equestrian facility, because we deal with the same thing. And that's why there was no NorCal Classic this year, is because the Roseville Fairgrounds, they just want to jack up prices and make it so it's not even realistic to have a show. And so as a hobbyist, it's hard to, and somebody that's also promoted shows, which you're aware of, mm-hmm. it gets astronomical, especially up here. And they're trying to, trying to charge money that you could never recuperate and make it so that it's a realistic event, because you're going to lose your tail on it, So my hat's off for, they put this thing together and made it all work. And yeah, everything can be fine tuned. And I'm definitely, I appreciate the opportunity to have give some input, for what we think about the weekend. And like you said, nothing's bashing, just the reality of like what we dealt with and everything. And I mean, other than that, I mean, these are pretty small problems in the overall scheme of things. And they pulled it off, but there definitely could be some some changes. And I think any event you walk away from wishing you did something different,
Well, yeah. I think listen, I know it's a lot of work to promote a show and put the stuff on, and Andy got a good turnout for all the people that showed up for all that stuff. I just felt it's important that whether they want to hear it or not, they need to hear from people that come from out of town, because maybe they're not conscious of the fact that for us, it is at an absolute minimum $1,000 to get down there, for us to go participate in their event. I don't want to spend $1,000 to come to your event and then I get a job voting for cars. I'm not. I want to enjoy the show, catch up with friends and all that stuff, and I don't want to screw somebody by not voting. So I don't want the obligation to vote for cars. You know what I mean? And
absolutely,
a lot of times after I debuted the Bull Run bus the first time at the Classic, I never registered it after that. I just went in, I paid, I didn't care about the trophy, and every year after that I went, I paid the registration, but I didn't bother registering for the show because my attitude was two things. One, I showed it one time, I got the award, I'm done. Now I'm driving it. But ultimately, like I said, if you're taking this as I'm blasting people or putting people on blast, you're wrong. What the purpose of this podcast was to maybe give some insight when you come from out of town, what it takes to support the event you put on, and, maybe take some consideration of people that are coming from out of town. Like the thing with me with the trailer parking, I was in Irvine, and even my trailer parking was a bit of a fiasco, and there was no way I was going to park downtown. But overall, man, it was a good turnout. There was a lot of people missing that I didn't see there. I appreciate you guys from coming on and sharing your perspectives, because, again, this is not to put anybody on blast. This is not to do anything other than, I feel from my experience being there, looking at all the things that I saw, I thought, was there no thought to people coming out? Was there no thought to cars that are debuting? Was there? And I know it was like, oh, Bill's crying because of this. I'm not. I drug Wayne Callahan out, who had that car built by Buddy Hale. And, I had issues with my truck was still in the body shop. So he rented a dually, hooked up to my gooseneck. I brought my gooseneck out. We brought both cars out there, and he did good. He's super happy, all that stuff, but it cost him a lot of money to come out to the show. And so I'd love for people to say, we hear you. We've made some changes that will make you want to go. We've got places that accommodate trailers. We've tightened the venue. We've tightened the weekend up so that you can bring your trailer, drop off your car, and within a 20-mile loop, get to all the events if you want. You know what I mean? But maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. Maybe I don't know. You guys agree, disagree with my disposition?
And like I said, I love the show. I had a great time. The only thing that would change for me to go back would be to get rid of that dirt parking lot. If there's a way you could bypass that dirt, I'd go next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dirt wasn't even dirt. It's like silt. It was insane I look like pig pen rolling in from peanuts, but
it's like baby powder.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you, Bill. We're ingrained in the culture, and we've got multiple cars. All of us do. And, it's not our first rodeo. And at the end of the day, you promoted shows. I've helped promote shows, and it's a struggle, and everyone has something to say. But like you, I just want this to come across as a positive thing, and just from, because obviously no one's seen my convertible either. I debuted that. That's kind of what this was for that car. Because I brought it to one crazy weekend. I took it to the Autorama. I took it to Kelly Park, and it got, we brought it out to for SoCal. Because honestly, it's just I truly enjoy this. I'm an enthusiast first, before anything else.
No,
I love the event. And
100%. Listen, the way the venue on the grass was great. It was a little bit warm, but they can't control the weather. The band was cool. The vendors, there's a lot of cool vendors there, a lot of vendors set up. So that was cool. So I do want to give some positives. There's a lot of positives about that. That dirt road is is a killer. And so I don't know if they could pay for a truckload of chat to go down there and roll out some chat a week before so it gets all compacted and keeps the dirt down to a minimum. But there are inexpensive ways of being able to facilitate that. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your perspective. I know sometimes it's not easy or people get a little, concerned about, but again, this is coming from a disposition of, I love the Classic Weekend as much as anybody else does. And would I love to see it be back? I would love to see it be back. And
Yep.
if that's the goal is eventually, us guys that are in the desert. I love the beach. I love I love being close to the coast because it's cooler and all that stuff. And this is maybe the beginning of a better thing. So, guys, thanks for coming on and taking the time. I know, Lee, you've got a car that your wife's building. Nicole's building a car you got down at Buddy's shop right now. So you're anticipating having that out next year?
Yeah. We're hoping to pick the body up, or I should say bring the pan and bolt the body on by fall, bring it home, and then finish completing it from there for next year.
Nice. And Joey, you're always working on a million things at your shop, Workstat Restoration. And go ahead.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. And I got, stuff that I'm building for people that I get to, kind of bring out and stuff. And so I'm looking forward to these venues. And I love the SoCal culture. I love coming over to the, to Vegas area. I love going to Utah. I mean, I like mixing it up. So at the end of the day, props for what they did. And it's not, like you said, it's not a bash session. It's just that dirt road was, that was mind boggling. Cause that's one of the things we consider first and foremost is, getting into the show and getting out of the show, exiting and all that stuff. So, but hey, there's always room for improvement no matter what we do.
That's it. Well, guys, I appreciate you for coming on, man. And I'm sure I'll see you guys at one of the next shows coming up. Well, Lee, I'm going to see you in 2 weeks down in SoCal at the event. And then
yes,
Joey, for sure, I'm going to see you in October. So
absolutely.
All right. Well, guys, I appreciate you guys for coming on, man. And thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, if you like that podcast, you have feelings about it, or you're involved with the promotion of the event, you want to come on and talk to me, shoot me a message at Bill at Let's Talk Dubs. Love to have anybody that may thought we were critical or that kind of stuff, which, again, it was constructive criticism from the perspective of guys that drive to that weekend for specifically debuting cars and things like that. So, you got it or you didn't get it. And, my thing is just to make sure that try to give my perspective. I can't say an unbiased opinion because I have a biased opinion, because when you compare something to something that I really enjoyed, it's like, okay, well, was it like that? So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that we were able to put on a platform, a couple different guys, get some different perspective of the weekend, the event, and it's going to be better. Everything will be better next year. Sometimes the challenge becomes, especially in Southern California, there's too many things going on at once. You're forced to pick and choose, and it's not always fun because as VW people, we like to go to a little bit of everything. So unless you're just a spectator and you can shoot into every little event and spend an hour here, an hour there, it's one thing if you're somebody that's bringing a car from out of state and you're putting, and you got 10 hours between driving there and back committed to going to that, plus, $1,000 for the rooms and a bunch of other stuff. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I think our opinion's important. I don't know. Maybe it's not. I could be wrong, man. So correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know. Bill at letstalkdubs.com. And then also want to give a couple shout outs this week. If you're in the Michigan area, there's going to be the US 131 Eurofest, which is a water-cooled and air-cooled VW event. They've got drag racing, car show, all kinds of good stuff. So make sure it's open to all European vehicles, car show, swap meet, and a rolling race. They hope to see you there. The event is taking place on July 20th. The date is July 20th. So if you guys can check that out, it's going to be on Sunday, July 20th, and it's going to be in Michigan. So make sure you guys check that out and support your local VW event. So that's drag racing, car show, swap meet, and all that good stuff. So sounds like a good time. Go check it out. And when you get there, tell them Let's Talk Dubs told you to get it in gear. And for this weekend coming up, starting June 13th, I'm going to be down in Southern California again for the DKP's big annual summer cruise night. That's put on by Der Kleiner that's going to be kicking off the weekend of their 60th anniversary. It's going to be at Wahoo's Fish Tacos at 23042 East Park Drive in Yorba, California, 92887. So check that out. Well, guys, I'm looking forward to seeing some of you this next weekend on the 13th, 14th, and 15th, coming up with some of the stuff that's happening over there. So I may announce more. I didn't get a lot of the details, but either way, lots of cool podcasts coming up. Wrapping a lot of people this last weekend about some future guests coming on the podcast. So I'm looking forward to that, bringing you guys some more quality podcast people. So until next week, guys, later.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen.